primers to set off the artillery, the fuses to cause the artillery rounds to explode, making the small arms ammunition. So an incredible military output will come from Richmond. Not only that, it will be a transportation hub with 5 railroads coming into the city. We also have the James River and Kanawha Canal. And something that a lot of people don't even think about, it's a naval center. The James River is navigable all the way up to the city itself. And they will be producing ironclad ships there in the city of Richmond. So for many reasons, Richmond is absolutely important. First on to Richmond Drive, of course, ended in failure for the Federals on the plains of Manassas. The Union Army defeated, Irvin McDowell would be replaced. The man that Lincoln would select would be a man in his mid-30s to replace McDowell, a man by the name of George B. McClellan, who had had some success in the western part of Virginia. He brings him to Washington, D.C., and he gives him command of the Army. What? Yeah. And he will give him command of the Army of the Potomac. McClellan will go about the hard job of taking that army that had been defeated, reorganizing it, making it an effective fighting force. Then he too will eventually come up with a plan to try to take Richmond. What he'll eventually decide to do is he will take his army by ship from Washington, D.C. to the tip of the Virginia Peninsula, which is that piece of ground between New York and the James rivers. And what he hopes to do is come at Richmond from the east using the rivers and the United States Navy as his supply lines. To land on the tip of the Virginia Peninsula, as you found out yesterday, he will come up on General John Bankhead Magruder, Prince John Magruder, who has a small Confederate force, and he makes it look as if he has a much larger force than there actually is. It forces McClellan to slow down, gives the Confederates time to shift the rest of their army from central Virginia down to Yorktown. A siege is going to take place around Yorktown. McClellan begins to bring his big guns up, and finally, just before he's about to launch a siege, General Johnston and his Confederate army will abandon. Shortly after that, other events begin to happen, one of which Norfolk would fall. And that would be critical. You see, one of the primary threats to the city of Richmond during the Civil War was always the James River. Because the James River, as I mentioned earlier, is navigable all the way up to the city itself. And there was that fear that a federal fleet would sail into Richmond and say, surrender the city or we open fire. And keep in mind, in spring of 1862, that's exactly what happened. Really had done very little to guard along the river to protect themselves from July of 61 at the time of Manassas, really to February of 62, the closest defense along the James was really Jamestown Island. And so the Confederates realized more needs to be done, particularly once McClellan's army is landing on the tip of the peninsula and there's all this activity at the mouth of the James. But by March, there was something to protect Richmond on the James, but it wasn't a fort, it was a ship. The CSS Virginia was now being controlled the mouth of the James. And as long as she was there, Richmonders could breathe a little bit easy. But then, as I mentioned before, activity takes place on the peninsula. Johnston evacuates Yorktown. Yorktown falls. Shortly after that, Norfolk will fall. And that is critical because Norfolk was the home port to the Virginia. And once that port's gone, she has nowhere to go. She can't sail out to sea because she is a deep water ship. She's a engines just aren't really that good. So she's not going to be able to do it. She can't sail up the James River either because she is a deep water ship. And there are many places where it's simply too shallow. So eventually the Confederates will be forced to scuttle or destroy their very own ironclad. And once that happens, the door to Richmond, the James, is now going to swing wide open, and a fleet of 5 ships, including the famous ironclad Monitor, are going to begin to set sail up the James with orders to shell Richmond into submission. Frantically, you have members of the United States Navy, Marine Corps, heavy artillerymen, as well as slaves and others working at trying to get the position into readiness. When we tour Drury's Bluff in just a bit, you're going to see the fort as it was once it was completed, at the end of the war even. Keep in mind, it looked nothing like that in 1862. This fort was still under construction. Having said that, I think we set the stage for what we're about to see, and I'm not sure where Ed's going to take over once we get there.
Why wouldn't the Confederates, having analyzed the weakness of the Virginia and having the ability to make ironclad, make a shallow draft ironclad that would guard the river further up after the Virginia was unable to protect it?
The ironclads that they will make in Richmond, like the CSS Richmond, Fredericksburg, I believe, the Virginia II, are shallower, so they are able to patrol along the James.
But it was late in the day for that, or
yeah, that they're going to be produced as more goes on. We're going to make them.
There's the bus. You caught the bus.
Roger. Yeah, the raincoat's long enough, but the boots are short.
Drury's Bluff, named for the local landowner Captain Augustus H. Drury, rose 90 feet above the water and commanded the sharp bend of the James River, making it a logical place for defensive fortifications. By May of 1862, workers had constructed earthworks, dug artillery emplacements, and mounted 3 large coastal guns inside the fort. And we're going to find out about what happened on May the 10th, 11th, 1862. And thereafter, because the Battle of Drury's Bluff takes place on the 15th.
Is that one right there. The other 2 guns, you can see the gun pits, you can see the embrasures, one there, and the gun pit there. And the was Flag Officer Goldsboro. The first admiral in the United States Navy is David Glasgow Farragut. He doesn't become an admiral until July 1812. And Goldsboro doesn't want to send his ironclad vessels up the James River. And Lincoln will go have guidance and counseling.
Mary, smile.
And with the secretary Goldsboro, and Goldsboro decides he's going to send a squadron up the river. Now, what is it going to? It's going to be commanded by John Rogers. Rogers is one of the Rogers family are big people in the Navy from the War of 1812 to World War I. The Rogers family, and Rogers is going to be in charge because he is now captain. He's captain of Monitor, and he is in charge of the squadron. So he's going to have Monitor. Now, Monitor, so his squadron is going to consist of Galena. This was that terrible ripoff that Bushnell built. And you're going to find out, boy, if they'd relied on the Galena, she'd have been blown out of the water with one salvo from Virginia. Galena has the shape of a sloop, and her armor is less than 1 inch thick. And between the armor and the wood backing, they have much of Mr. Goodyear's patent rubber. Figuring when it hits, a shell hits it, the rubber will absorb a lot of the shock, which the 1 inch of armor can't do. Be like, and it will not do any damage to the vessel. Unfortunately because of the size of monitor, Rogers' flag would not be on monitor. Then he's got the coast, the Revenue Marine has got into the act. They have built a partially armored vessel that it's not a submarine, but you can float it down, and the 100-pounder Parrot in the bow, it has 1 gun on it, 100-pounder Parrot. It's partially armored, and when it goes down, it cannot submerge. It can submerge probably 2/3 of the way. That's another vessel that's going up the river. They have to go to Chase to get permission to use that. Now they're going to get 2 timber-clad gunboats, Rostock and Front Royal. And they're going to set off about on the 12th. On the 12th day, they're going to leave Hampton Roads. They're going to have a slight delay at Jamestown, but let's get all. And they're going to arrive at City Point, Virginia on the 14th. They're going to cut the telegraph at City Point, Virginia, so the City Point better get used to having Yankees there. They're going to have lots of them there in 64 and 65. And they know Lee is called in to have a meeting. The mayor and the city council has decided if they get by Murray's Bluff, they're going to burn this. Lee has been told to find out where we'll fall back to. And he does a brief comeback. He comes to the meeting and says, the best place we can fall back to is the Staten River. The Staten River is 100 miles down the track from Richmond and about 40 miles north of Danville. Lee then gets very emotional, almost breaking, his voice breaking. And he will say, Richmond will not be given up. Richmond will be hell. That's one of the first times you ever find Lee getting very, very emotional at a meeting with Davis, members of the cabinet, and the city fathers. So Lee is evidently, he's actually staking his reputation on this fort. And the next morning on the 15th, going about after daybreak, the squadron will cast off from City Point. And they'll come up the river. Galena in front. I'm surprised Rogers would do this, but he has to do it. He's got this mission, flying on a flagship. I think Rogers is smarter than knowing that layer of Goodyear rubber is not going to do what he wants to do. If he doesn't know it, he's going to do it after it's hit about 2 times. So the Confederates they sound the alarm. The Confederates man their guns. Now they've strengthened the battery because when they destroy, before they blow up Virginia, they bring 3, 4, 5, 6, 5 guns from Virginia and the crews that man them. And they're going to man them in the days between the destruction of Virginia on the 11th and the morning and the evening of the 14th. So they're 32 pounds. They're going to be upriver from us. There will be some help, but they're not the most. So if we were here, you would be here, and they'd get the guns. What do you see coming around that bend there? 90 degrees. Galena. They have to admire Galena's seamanship. He comes up river and is going to take position 400 yards below us. The river is narrow. They have to back the vessel back, then move her in, and then move her so her broadside, her port, her starboard side guns will be up here. Now, port and starboard, when you're in the Marine Corps, the sailors think Marines are dumber than hell. And they always give us this lecture. How do you know port? Left and port both have four letters. And listen to that one time. Starboard doesn't. Well, port battery would be port. They have 14 guns on it, and they then, coming up to pretty much, taken from the painting, there of course is Galena. Now, Monitor is here. Monitor is worse, as helpless here as tits on a borehole. Because guns cannot be elevated. So it's a waste of time setting up. Unfortunately, and you can see Naugatuck is, well, this is Aroostook and Front Royal. Naugatuck is probably in the lee of there someplace because it'll be very low to water. You take a couple of feet of water, but take maybe a couple of 100 gallons of water, she would sink. If she sinks, just down. She has 100-pound appearance, but that will not elevate very good either, any better than the ones in the cut. So the bombardment is going to start, and it's going to be very obvious for a while that Galena will be in position about probably 2.5 hours. It's going to be have 34 people killed on it. It's going to have a large number of wounded. It takes heavy damage. And probably if we stayed much longer in position, they would have sunk Galena. And it becomes a decision that they're going to have to withdraw. Of course, the Confederate sharpshooters are in those trees on either side. Now, that isn't too bad on the Galena. But remember, Galena has an open deck. But that's bad on the guys on the Aroostook and Front Royal. Because they're under fire. It doesn't bother Monitor any. And by a little around 11:15, Rogers decided not to work. And Lee has left Britain. He's planning to come down here, but he won't be here until after they have done reforms. As he's left Richmond to come down. Now you can hear the firing in Richmond when this is going on, and they withdraw, and this port will be much larger as the war goes on, and it becomes the anchor of the port that eventually will find Butler Port in a bottle of that battle on the 100. And this is going to be a very heavy fighting. The Union are not going to attack this. What they're going to do is to anchor the line. Butler is during this expedition, which arrives here. Lands his men at Bermuda 100 and tries to fiddle battles around. And because his mission is really to get to the James River above Richmond and attack Richmond from that way. Because he's operating, Butler is operating cooperation. Right, as General-in-Chief, is supposed to be cooperating in cooperation with the Army of the Potomac and the Army of the James. So that's the story of it here. She gives the Confederates a big boost, and it's a very site. This is the site with this painting here. You can really get a good feeling. This also anchors the Confederate defense line on that side of the river, and on the north side of the James. They extend right over to that bluff there, and there's some damage. Okay.
Eddie.
I think as you stand up here, you can see immediately why they selected this position to build the fort, 90 feet above the river. You're also at a point where the James River is very narrow, and that is what made it so ideal, because not only would you have a plunging fire coming from the guns, but you had the perfect place to put obstructions. And so the Confederates would drive piles down into the river, put cribs of stone, even obstruct, even sink some of their own ships. So an ideal defensive position. After the 3.5-hour-long battle, during that action, they fired only a couple shots at the Monitor, about 3 that bounced off. One of the things I like to think about is had they continued to fire at the Monitor, her weakest armor was her deck armor, because she never expected to be taking fire from above. So had they continued to fire, perhaps they may have been able to damage even that ship. But they did not. The Federal fleet would fall back away. Keep in mind that the way you see the fort today is not the way it was at that time. This fort was still under construction, so there will only been a couple guns here in the in the fort proper, manned by heavy artillerymen, and then outside of the fort would have been manned by sailors and Marines. So you actually had a mixed command here with Army, Navy, Marines all working here.
This was a Marine barracks for the
Right. Also, I'd like to point out that the casualties for this battle are probably no more than 50 between the two sides combined. But this is a battle you cannot judge by casualties alone. You have to judge it by what was accomplished. And on that day, May 15th, 1862, groups that you hardly ever hear about, United States sailors, Marines, heavy artillerymen, at least when it comes to the defense of Richmond, on that day, they were the heroes. They were the ones who protected the Confederate capital, just like Lee and the Army of Northern Virginia would do on many other battlefields. So this is a very important spot. As Ed mentioned, as the war continues, this will begin to serve other purposes as well. It'll become home to the Confederate States Marine Corps. Camp Bell will be set up here. When Norfolk is evacuated, 2 companies of Confederate States Marines, 2 80-man companies arrive here. Later that summer, another company arrives in 1862. So 3 companies. I think the Confederate States Marine Corps is only 6 companies. Half the Confederate States Marine Corps would call Drury's Bluff home. Also, as the war went on, the Patrick Henry, the Confederate States Naval training ship, would be docked down here. And in fact, this would become home to the Confederate States Naval Academy. Midshipmen would learn about the art of war here at sea, here at Drury's Bluff. It became a very popular place with tourists, too, coming from the city of Richmond. The CSS Schultz sailed down here, bringing people to have picnic lunches, watch the Marines at drill, watch the midshipmen at work.
Patrick Henry is also here, and it fires 1 shot, and it hits Galena, because it's up above the raft. It's up above the structure. It fires 1 shot, and it's a receiving ship, fires 1 shot, and it hits Galena. And also the first Marine Corps Medal of Honor recipient in the Navy, because will be Corporal Mackey.
What did you? Judge?
And before we head off, we do want to give you at least a few minutes just to kind of walk the perimeter here. We've never been here before.
It's much more extensive than the plot. The plan is pretty much...
His opinion that she was beneath naval criticism. The rebel guns were manned by sailors, probably from the Merrimack and the Jamestown and the Yorktown. Pretty good there. Which the last 2 had been sunk with other obstructions. Actually, only one of those ships had been actually sunk. The Jamestown. Now, he said, it became evident after a time that it was useless for us to contend against the terrific strength and accuracy of their fire. Suddenly, volumes of smoke were seen issuing from the Galena's ports and hatches, and the cry went through us that she was on fire, or a shot had penetrated her boiler. Her men poured out of the open porch on the side opposite the batteries, clinging to the anchor to loose ropes and dropping into boats. We at once raised our anchor. Remember, he's on the mountain. We at once raised our anchor to go to her assistance, but found she did not need it. And then referring to the next day when he actually went aboard the Galena, a very graphic description. And I'll just, one little piece of that. From Keeler, she looked, this is the Galena, she looked like a slaughterhouse of human beings.
Oh boy.
In the aftermath of that fight.
The fate of Galena, they will remove the armor. They'll remove the Goodyear patent rubber and convert her into a wooden gunboat, and she will participate at that time in when Farragut fights his way into Mobile Bay.
Really?
So she will have, I imagine the ironclad board of the three men who were pushing her before they were introduced by Bushnell to Erickson, probably felt vindicated.
And was back in the service during the 7 days, and McClellan will be using it temporarily as a headquarters during some of the fights.
Was the Galena named because of Galena, Illinois? Or?
Yeah, Galena,
Okay.
Illinois.
Because
Now, the McClellan, if you're going to find out tomorrow, McClellan is not going to be on the battlefield of Maverick. He's not going to be on the battlefield of Maverick. He's been only on the battlefield of Gaines Mill early in the day before any combat begins. He has left Savage's Station long before fighting starts. Now, I'm not saying that, but being a veteran, you know if your commanding officer isn't around very much, and he loses any respect they have. Now, the Marine Corps name, and he was given originally by the Army. He was given by the battling bastards of Bataan. How many times was MacArthur ever on Bataan? One. Now the Marine Corps don't start liking MacArthur till after Inchon. And he was referred to, and it started in the Army. The Marine Corps didn't start the dugout. It started on Bataan, because he only comes ashore for a very short time on Bataan.
This is a picture of the USS Monitor. Contrary to some reports, the Monitor, despite its squat turret, did not have difficulty bringing its guns to bear. Commanded by Lieutenant William N. Jeffers, it fired steadily against Fort Drury. The Confederate cannon, after bouncing a few ineffective shots off the ironclad, turned their focus to the vulnerable USS Galena. This proved to be Monitor's last major action. The Monitor went down on December 31st, 1862, sunk in the Atlantic coast off the coast of Cape Hatteras, which we learned at the museum the other day, and we also saw the film bringing up the turret just in the last few years.
They'd be going to the worst assignment I could pick up.
Like beyond the buoy, because
Yes,
there was,
I did not know that.
all the obstructions
So you went
were a
up,
couple of
into the house,
100 yards probably
I was out.
downriver.
Where the sand and gravel place is down here?
Closer to that.
Okay.
That's where I'm thinking, because
How about French cake?
they describe obstructions a couple 100 yards from the bottom of the bluff, and then beyond that, maybe another 300 or 400 yards.
Well, they have to make the bend to fire, so we know there's somewhere between the bend and you think here.
So the gravel is
Yeah.
probably as close as any guess you could make.
They're firing through gun ports, so they have very little deflection. Quarters of a mile area. So he could pick up 50,000 watt stations, because there are no 50,000 watt stations at that time in North Dakota. Right. And there's 50,000 watt stations, either Des Moines, or WHL, and WLW in Cincinnati, which was 100 watts.
KMOX in St. Louis. KMOX. KMOX. Yeah, because up in Minnesota, I can pick up the Cardinal games every now and then. Because the skip was just on the night.
Lucky you.
My father was a pub band in the White Sox. Like Verdun, as close to it as it is.
This is a picture of John F. Mackey, who's depicted on the drawing as a young man. He is a Medal of Honor winner, and the Medal of Honor is on his chest, is displayed second from the left in the row of medals.
It is probably, yeah, if you're talking about a single army, yes.
Right. Yeah.
Because I don't think
Of Richmond, you can hear the church bells ringing in the city. But as he closes on Richmond, he is literally cut in two by the Chickahominy River. Now, the Chickahominy River, under normal conditions, is often insignificant. However, it has a very wide floodplain. And when it rains a lot, like it did in 1862, yes, the Chickahominy becomes quite an obstacle.
James, can I give you a call later? With some call you back at this
One
number?
of the issues is McClellan's new supply base, or supply base for this campaign, is a place known as White House Landing on the Pamunkey River, which is on the north side of the Chickahominy. As he advances towards Richmond, to get at Richmond, you have to be on the south side of the Chickahominy. So that means he has to split his army in two. And as he gets closer to Richmond, Johnston sees an opportunity. McClellan will place two corps, the 3rd Corps and the 4th Corps, 3rd Corps under General Heintzelman, 4th Corps under General Keyes, south of the Chickahominy River. He will have the 5th Corps under Fitzjohn Porter, the 6th Corps under General Franklin, and the 2nd Corps under General Sumner on the north side. And so now Johnston sees an opportunity to strike a part of the Federal Army south of the Chickahominy, hopefully crush and destroy it as the grand battle that he's looking to fight. He comes up with a plan in which he will have 3 columns heading towards an area known as Seven Pines, and they will all meet at that same general area. He will have one column under General Eugene march down the Charles City Road. He will have another column under General D.H. Hill march down the Williamsburg Road, where we are right here. He will have another column under General Longstreet that will go down the 9 Mile Road. The day of the action, and Longstreet's put in tactical control of the operation. The day of the attack on May 31st, 1862, for reasons that I don't know anyone knows for sure why this happened, Longstreet decides to change the plan. Instead of his division going along the 9 Mile Road, he decides that he's going to follow up D.H. Hill on the Williamsburg Road. Well, what that means is now you have a congestion of troops all on top of each other, trying to work their way out towards the Federal position. Basically, the days, or the hours of the day begin to pass. The attack should have begun early in the morning. Hours begin to pass. Finally, General Johnston, wondering what's going on, sends his aide, Lieutenant Washington, on a ride down 9 Mile Road to see what's going on. He will eventually be captured by Federal soldiers, maybe giving a slight alarm that, hey, maybe something's up. Later, General Custer will take a picture of Washington. It's one of the famous pictures of 1862 of Custer sitting with a young Confederate officer. That's Washington who was captured. So now, Johnston's wondering what's going on, what's happening. Finally, by about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, D.H. Hill will push on his own down this road, down the way we're going, towards the Federal position. He will slam into probably the weakest division in the Army of the Potomac. It's a division under Silas Casey. It's probably only about 6,000 strong, and it's inexperienced, a lot of new troops. And he will hit that division and be able to push it back. Eventually, reinforcements from Heintzelman will come up, and they will form a second line. the fighting will continue. But once again, the Confederates will be able to beat them back by flanking the position. Word will go to Johnston finally about 4 o'clock if the battle has started. And that's the first time that Johnston finds out. Even though he's only a few miles away, people have attributed it to acoustic shadows. He did not hear the fighting going on. So now, this battle is taking place. As far as what's happening on the north side of the Chickahominy River, General Sumner, Advanced Second Corps, will send Sedgwick's division to assist. And they will cross the Chickahominy River, which is swollen with rain, on Grapevine Bridge, a bridge that looks like it's about to break away at any moment. The men will cross on over. The weight of the men is probably actually holding the bridge in place, and his division will be able to make it across before that bridge washes away. They will come and be able to assist. By 4 o'clock, Johnston will push forward along the 9 Mile Road. Doesn't have Longstreet there now. He does have Whiting's division. Whiting's division will engage with Sedgwick. In that fighting along the 9 Mile Road, probably the most significant thing that happens is General Johnston, who's leading the men out front, is wounded.
Gets shot in the arm.
He gets wounded by a bullet as well as an artillery fragment. And now G.W. Smith will take control. There'll be additional fighting under General Smith on June the 1st, but basically the troops fall back to their positions. That opportunity has disappeared. President Davis realizes that the person he wants to lead his army is not General Houston Smith, and he appoints his military advisor, one Robert E. Lee. Robert E. Lee will take control of the army. You have to realize that at this point, it's a very dark time for the Confederacy. I think a lot of people today, when they reflect early in the war, they see Manassas, and then they see the 7 days, and they see victory after victory, and then the second Manassas, and they think, you know, early in the war, the Confederates did real well, and then as Northern men and material began to take their toll, it started to go down for them. And that's not the case. Following the victory of Manassas, the Confederates had setback after setback after setback. There have been defeats at Forts Henry and Donelson. They lost at Shiloh. Most recently, you had the fall of New Orleans, the largest city in the Confederacy, was in federal hands. And then, to make matters worse, the largest, best-equipped Union Army, numbering over 105,000 men, is sitting right outside Richmond, listening to the church bells ringing in the city. And then you thought it couldn't get any worse. It did. The Confederates will attack at Seven Pines, and their heroes wounded. So now we're going along the road. This is where the fighting took place here in Fair Oaks.
You see, my great-grandfather
Placed with Robert E. Lee. And of course, while we know him today as the great general, at that time they weren't sure if he was the right man for the job. People would refer to him as Granny Lee and the King of Spades because of his insistence on building protected works.
General Lee and President Davis came across the Dabbs house on their way back from Seven Pines to Richmond after receiving permission from Mary Catherine Dabbs. Lee set up his headquarters at High Meadows, as Dabb House was known, to plan the defense of Richmond.
Granted, yeah, Constitution, all that's something transcribed all the time. But yeah, you find old letters like this that have never been written down and you lost. Yeah, yeah, right. Exactly.
Jackson arrives here. He had left his camp on his long ride here at a few minutes after midnight on the 22nd. It's about a 50-mile ride you get from Louisa County, from Louisa Courthouse to here. He makes a mistake, probably leaving the Reverend Dabney, who is who is his adjutant in charge of the Army's march on the 23rd, and he's going to be very disappointed when he gets back, as the 23rd begins to get very late in the day. Jackson will probably get back late on the 23rd. He arrives here in the early afternoon. He's the first one apparently to arrive here. Lee is probably already here. This is Lee's headquarters at the time, and he will be rather surprised when he apparently does not know that among the people who are arriving here are going to be one of his brother-in-law. So they're going to have D.H. Hill, A.P. Hill, and Longstreet here. They're going to chat out here for a while before they go in to meet with Lee. Jackson now realizes how important the move that he's been brought down here to take part of. As I say, the steps have been all on the march till they get to Louisa County, where they're joined by Lawton's command, that they want McClellan to believe that that Jackson is being reinforced in the valley, and here they're going to learn of Lee's plan, and they're going to have some discussions considerably. Longstreet will be the more person that is interrupting it more because he is going to be very shocked when Jackson is going to give them the time that he can arrive here. We can find out it's probably a good thing they cut giving him an extra day. So the plan, of course, is at this time the Union Army is being reinforced. Has been reinforced, and Jackson and Lee is going to show why he should be General Audacity by this staff officer known down in Charleston when Porter Alexander had questioned if Lee was audacious enough to take the offensive against this large force McClellan has. So what it really boils down to, the thing they're going to have to worry about is more of Jackson. The plan is, of course, is going to basically, before we get discussing what Jackson is, A.P. Hill is to be where is going to be up is going to cross on the Chickahominy Meadow bridges with his command. He's going to send one of his brigades up to where the guys and the one lady were here the previous day at Half Sink. Half Sink is further toward the headwaters of the Chickahominy. The next crossing above Meadow Bridges, and so he'll. And I don't think they spell out which brigade is going to be there. It's to send one brigade to Half Sink, but we know which brigade he's going to send to Half Sink will be Branch's brigade. Branch's brigade has seen probably more action recently than the others. So Hill will remain with the rest of his division at Half Sink, taking position on the north side of the Mechanicsville bridges. Now remember, the title they use at that time is bridges because the Chickahominy is broken into a number of threads. So they always refer to them as Meadows Bridges, Mechanicsville bridges. So Longstreet will form on the upstream side of the Chickahominy on the Chickahominy Bluffs on the upstream side. So he would be on the left. D.H. Hill will be there where they formerly had the stop there. which the Park Service acquired at the time of the 100th anniversary. That tract of land. And I understand there's no longer the lookout point there. Probably a good idea because you always lost time there. And that's where DH is going to be. Now, the thing is going to be all timed by the time that Jackson can continue his march. He's got to ride all the way back to in eastern Louisa County, and he's going to have to. Jackson is going to have to be to meet the time limit he's set for himself. He has to be through Ashland before daybreak. Ashland is going to be a key place, and he is going to, after discussions at Longstreet on it, he will finally agree to make that he can make up the time that they're going to on the march that they're not making good time on the 23rd. You'll have them by the morning of the 26th, crossing the railroad at Ashland. So that's going to be one of the big hang-ups that's going to come on. Jackson is not going to do as well as he thought he could. He's not going to get across the railroad at Ashland to well after daybreak. He wanted to be there much closer to midnight. So that's going to be that's going to throw all the careful timing on. Now, when they go back to their assignments, Lee will get very worried. It always gets forgotten. The Battle of King's Schoolhouse is going to be on the 25th. On the 25th, we're going to have in the area just west of where we were when we were at Seven Pines. The Union are north of the Williamsburg Road is a Union division north of the road with 3 brigades, including the ladies will be impressed to know one of the brigades north of that river, north of the Williamsburg Road is going to be General Daniel Sickle, the Excelsior Brigade out of New York. Ladies always smile when I mention that name. Always because of a good humor. And early that day, on the 25th, he is going to get worried because the Union are going to take the offensive. And they're going to push forward. Now, so the readout is, if we pass it again, will be the readout is going to be just across about where the library is, and they're going to push the Union. The Confederates are pushed back. They're going to be pushed back into the area of where the main terminal is at the airport. They push them back probably about a mile. And Lee is worried as McClellan found out more than he should know, and if it is a real attack, and it will undoubtedly make his plan for the rendezvous all going to pieces. But it really is a reconnaissance in force, and before the day is over, the Confederates will push the Union troops back, push the skirmish line back to almost the same place the Union skirmish line was in early when they began the day. So that took some of the worries that there's not going to be a major Union thrust at that point, because that would because that's you always got to worry. Had McClellan found out more than he should know. So the morning is going to dawn. All the troops are in position. Branch is taking his position up at Half Sink, and it's going to be well after daybreak before the lead of Jackson's men start crossing the railroad up in action. Now, Jackson is bringing a substantial force now. After he's been joined by Lawton, he's probably got up to moving up to 15 to 18,000 men. And how fast could you move 18,000 men as they push across there? And they're going to cross the cross, getting further behind. They then push southward toward Half Sink. At least cavalry reporting to General Ewell, who has the advance, will push southward, staying on the east side of the railroad. And Confederate cavalry will notice these cavalry, some cavalry attached, Confederate cavalry, we know they're attached to Ewell, moving southward. And that goes back. Then as they move southward ways, and then they countermarch, and they go back north. And that is when Jackson is going to change his course, and then start moving on a series of roads over there where we were on Tuesday. They're going to be taking them considerably north and parallel to the road that is present day 136. And Jackson will be moving on that road. Now, Jackson's plan is, when he hears the guns of the indicating that the Confederates have taken the offensive and have crossed the Chickahominy and Mechanicsville bridges and are attacking the Union forces of the 5th Corps, Jackson is to be moving southward and move his route southward much where from southward from beyond the key intersection near the Shelton House. And it's going to cross the Totopotomoy, and now he can hear the firing. And he's now he should have pushed forward rapidly, but he's behind time already considerably. And he hears the firing, and he decides to halt. He decides to halt, and his command is going to halt south of the Totopotomoy, rather than much closer to the Totopotomoy than he's supposed to. And he's going to halt. And now when they see cavalry attached to Ewell moving southward toward Half Sink, of course, Branch is going to pick it up. The cavalry, Union cavalry, screening him, his cavalry screening him. That's before Ewell changes his line of march and countermarches back to get on the road. It's going to pass over through the area toward Hanover Courthouse, and that's when he spots it. But it's already late, and when they spot that, Hill will report down to Branch. Will report that the enemy has been in sight. The enemy is now moved back northward, and Hill is very nervous. It's getting much closer to the noon hour, maybe going by the noon hour. And Hill will then make a decision, and the decision is, and we're going to be crossing at Meadows Bridges. And he's going to cross at Meadows Bridges, and it's going to be probably moving toward mid-afternoon when he crosses at Meadows Bridges. When he crosses at Meadows Bridges, when we drive, we're going to notice it's at least 2 miles from Meadows Bridges till you pass through Mechanicsville. As they look out there, Lee sees and D.H. Hill and Longstreet can see Union troops falling back on Mechanicsville. the ones that have been watching things would be AP Hill, and now the target goes, and DH Hill gets the order to cross, and they will then move into action, and the battle will take place as opens much later in the day than Lee had hoped, and no one knows where Jackson is. They don't know what route he's taken. They don't know when he halted. It had been relatively just before it's beginning to get dusk. Because the whole thing is done as Jackson crossing getting across the roads and ahead of the streams, flowing from west to east, from east to west, and flowing into what is the stream at Emerson's Mill. So Jackson will play no part in the day. We'll wonder tomorrow or later today what Lee is going to say to Jackson at Walnut Grove Church on the morning of the 27th.
Fantastic. Excuse me. Do you want to take a question or two?
Yes.
Okay, and then I'm going to introduce the site manager.
Yes.
Okay? So you can take a question.
Any questions? Now, Jackson is going to not be the Jackson. My feeling is, first off, he doesn't have Jed Hotchkiss with him. And there is not a good map of this area till 1863. It's not a good map. So he does not have good maps. He doesn't have his crutch there with him, crutch with him, which would be Hotchkiss, and and Jackson is. I have ridden 60 miles a horse in a day, bareback, and when I was 18 years old, and I was tired, but I'm sure I was not as tired as Jackson. As you read on Jackson, he is not I don't think he's one of these gung-ho people with a great deal of physical energy. And I think he's exhausted. That's what he does every time he halts too early. He sits down, takes a nap, and does anything he's going to write. He's going to tie to the church.
Folks, it's my pleasure to introduce to you Anna Trung, and she is the site manager here. Dabb's house is owned by the county of Henrico.
Yes. We are owned by the County of Henrico. We work under the Department of Recreation and Parks, so we're all about fun for the most part. But we welcome you to Dabb's. Thanks for coming here today. We appreciate that you chose us as one of your stops. What we're going to do is let you wander inside. Some of you got to see some of the exhibit space. We're going to let you go into the historic house and see where all the action took place. We have it set up for the time period that Lee was here. And what we're going to do is let you go in the front door. You'll see the downstairs area where the staff was located. And then upstairs is the private quarters of Robert E. Lee, where the Council of War met. And you can see that. You'll come back down and kind of wander back through. Some of you got to see the letters written from Lee and to Lee in one of our exhibit spaces. And you can take a better look at that if you'd like to as well. So we'll have people located throughout, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask us, and we'll have you on your way.
And on behalf of the Civil War Roundtable of Chicago, I just want to present this donation for your wonderful help and assistance with this tour.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Well, that's awfully kind of you. Thank you so much. So, welcome.
Upstairs.
Yes, display fairy parts up here.
knows that that's going to end with a Southern defeat. By mid-June, the federal position across the Chickahominy has changed. Now the majority of the federal army is south of the Chickahominy, and only the 5th Corps under General Fitz-John Porter is on the north side. And Lee comes up with an idea to attack that part of the federal army that's on the north side of the Chickahominy. What he wants to do is overwhelm it, crush it, destroy it, and then push on to a railroad, which we've already talked about, the Richmond and York River Railroad, because that connects White House Landing on the Pamunkey River, their supply base, with the front lines of the Union Army. But before he can do that, he needs information about the vulnerability of that right flank. So, if we had been here on June 11th, 1862, you would have seen galloping up to this house the young James Ewell Brown Stewart, nicknamed Jeb. I believe his nickname at West Point, though, was Beauty because of his lack of it. But Jeb Stewart will come up. He's in charge of the Confederate cavalry. He will meet with Lee, and Lee will give him the type of mission that he longs for. He's given orders to make a reconnaissance of the right flank of the Federal Army, a mission that will put him behind enemy lines. It seems that sometime during their discussion, Stewart does mention about the possibility of riding around the Union Army. Lee does not order him not to, but he also cautions him about his mission. On June the 12th, I think about 2 o'clock in the morning, Stewart will waken his staff with the words, "Gentlemen, in 10 minutes every man must be in the saddle." He will take elements of the 1st Virginia, the 4th Virginia, the 9th Virginia, the Jeff Davis Legion, about 1,200 of his best troopers, and they will begin on this reconnaissance. Initially, they will head up north towards, many people thinking heading towards the valley. I'm sure they're hoping any spies who may see this are thinking the same thing. But eventually they will stop just south of the South Anna River, at a place called the Winston Farm. Next day they will head east and begin to ride towards the Federal Army. They will clear through Hanover Courthouse. They will come up on their first they will come up on their first Federal Cavalry around that time. Some of the first Federal Cavalry that they clash with are members of the 5th U.S. Cavalry, which happens to be this old 2nd U.S. Cavalry. At the beginning of the Civil War, the cavalry units were redesignated, and one of Stewart's officers, Fitz Lee, happened to be in the 2nd Cavalry. And so it was quite a sight when he saw all of his old cronies, or many of them, in the 2nd Cavalry. And he said it was hard to believe that here were these two, Fitz Lee and all these enlisted, joking and laughing that they were part of separate armies meant to destroy each other. But that was the case. They will continue to ride on, eventually clashing with the Federals once again at a place known as Lenny's Corner. There, they will suffer their only casualty. A man by the name of, captain by the name of Latney, William Latney, will be killed in the attack fighting at Captain Royal. One of the most historic post-war prints that you see in many post-war homes is the burial of Latney, that one soldier who died in that ride around the Union Army. You see it all the time, kind of that lost cause type of print. Well, by this point, Stewart has the information he needs, but now how does he get back? He decides the most prudent thing to do is to continue on. I have a feeling he had that in mind the whole time, but they will continue on. He'll end up going for 3 days on a 100-mile ride. He'll take them completely around the Union Army, but most importantly, he brings the information back to Lee that the right flank is vulnerable to an attack. So now Lee begins to put the wheels in motion. He will order the small Valley Army from the Shenandoah to march down towards Richmond, and on June 23rd, there will be another meeting there at the Dabbs house. Lee will meet with D.H. Hill, A.P. Hill, James Longstreet, and in a surprise, General Thomas Jonathan Jackson, Stonewall Jackson. He has ridden 52 miles ahead of his column to be there at the meeting, and is there that Lee tells of his plan to launch an offensive to save Richmond, that they will be the strike force and will attack north of the Chickahominy. He comes up with a fairly elaborate plan, which works well on paper, but it involves a lot of columns separated from each other, coming into place all at the same time. Basically, you have Stonewall Jackson coming down, opening up the bridge at Meadow Bridge for AP Hill crossing, and then cleaning down through Mechanicsville, opening the bridges at Mechanicsville for DH Hill and for Long Street, and then all of them being able to push the Federals back. Now, Lee looks at the map and he realizes, the strongest position there for the Federals is Beaver Dam Creek. If I was a general, that's where I would have my line. So he assumes that the Federals have their line there. He doesn't want to attack that position, but by Jackson being where he is, he won't have to worry about it. Jackson will outflank the strong position of Beaver Dam Creek, and the Federals will be forced to fall back. That is if everything goes as it should. And on June 26th, that is not the case. Lee does have one other fear, and Ed touched on it. On June 25th, McClellan begins his movements towards Richmond at a place known as King's Schoolhouse or Oak Grove, basically in the vicinity of the airport. It's not a major push. Basically, it is a small advance that he wants to make because there's a place known as Old Tavern, which is high ground. He wants to eventually secure that, but before he can, he needs to secure a batch of woods about 600 yards in front so that he can have his artillery that will be able to neutralize it so they can attack it from different areas. So for June 25th at Oak Grove, that is what that action is all about, trying to advance that line just enough so that later they can attack Old Tavern. However, that concerns Lee because he's attacking basically where he's pulling his troops from. And does he know, is he trying to beat me to the punch? That's not the case. McClellan is just doing a general advance, but that will be the last advance that he will make towards Richmond. The next day, Lee begins his offensive there at Beaver Dam Creek. So I think that is much of what we missed that Ed covered while we were writing that I didn't know that we were covering at that time. So, excuse me as I go back and then forward a little bit as I get the feel of this.
On this map 13 that you have, you have the Chickahominy River on that.
Right.
Where is the Dobbs house in relationship to this map, or is it not on that map? Just general.
The Union Army in 1862 during this campaign, it goes up and down, 105,000, 115,000. Well, the 115,000, think of it this way. The Union Army is literally the 9th largest city in the United States according to the 1860 census. So you have a moving city coming at Richmond, a city that will require between 500 and 700 tons of supplies every day just to keep it in the field. So if you can threaten, or better yet, cut that supply line, it'll force the Federals back. So that is a big part of Lee's thinking in launching this offensive. Attack's going to begin any time now. We haven't heard from Jackson. 9 o'clock passes, 10 o'clock passes, 11 o'clock passes. Probably the only thing that could be worse is your boss would be there. Who shows up? Secretary of War and President Davis. Everybody's waiting. 11 o'clock passes, 12 o'clock passes, 1 o'clock passes. Finally, late in the day, Lee sees across the Chickahominy River through Mechanicsville, AP Hill's troops pushing through. Those are Hillsmen. Things are finally going as they should, but he doesn't realize that Jackson's not yet on the scene. Remember, the important role of Jackson was to play outflanking the strong position of Beaver Dam Creek. Without Jackson being there to outflank him, Lee has now shown his hand, and AP Hill will begin to launch frontal assaults against that strong